Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all of you, USF representatives and members organizations, for the invitation. As Vice President, I'm honored to represent the European Movement International today on this important occasion for participation and discussion. Unfortunately, I was not able to be in Alicante with you due to other local commitments in Italy. I'm so sorry for that, and I hope to meet you soon in person anyway. However, I would like to share with you some reflections and thoughts on the work that we are doing together and the most important issues that we are going to face in the coming future. The aftermath of the COVID-19 health crisis and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, as well as the inflation surge, are profoundly affecting European societies and economies and leading to uncertain economic outlooks that threaten the EU's path to recovery at a time when the digital and green transitions are transforming the labour market. As European Movement International, we are actively working on these issues. In particular, I'm coordinating the work of the EMI's Political Committee on Social, Sustainable, Creative and Prosperous Europe, which I'm one of the co-chairs. After several participated and fruitful debates with all the members of such political committee, we have published a policy position paper on the post-pandemic recovery and development in Europe, in which we define key policy recommendations for the EU institutions to address the challenges affecting our citizens in the most impactful way. I would like to take this opportunity to thank a lot your representatives, Vera Lipton and Roberto Righetti, for their contribution during discussions that led to the final document. In our paper, we stress the need to put in place recovery measures that are transformational and contribute to environmental and social goals, speeding up green and digital transitions in a fair and inclusive way. Ensuring the full integration of the European Pillar of Social Rights Action Plan, Sustainable Development Goals and the European Green Deal is crucial and would deliver a clear message that the EU has people and the planet at its heart. We believe that to face the economic crisis, the EU needs to be serious with implementing measures that allow for a deep transformation of our current economies towards a well-being economy. In fact, I'm convinced that the current crisis offers an opportunity for Europe to move forward towards a new model of development that respects the priority for environment and the fight against climate change and includes addressing wealth redistribution measures, quality employment, building strong and adequate social protection systems and quality services for all. One important step to reach that goal would be to replace GDP as an overall indicator for prosperity and introduce instead better methods of measuring this well-being, also considering human rights and tackling inequalities based on gender and other elements of social and economic discrimination, also including protection of the environment and climate as important parameters. Regarding labour market evolution, as many citizens lost their jobs during the crisis or were not able to work for months due to the pandemic restrictions, we see that youth unemployment and job insecurity are on the rise. This worrying development comes on top of already existing economic issues, considering that despite positive productivity growth, real wages have been stagnating and even falling in recent years. It is crucial to prevent this from turning into structural unemployment. To do this, the incentives by the EU and the European governments are important in the short term to avoid the collapse of our economies and labour markets. On the other hand, the economic downturn has been coupled with an increasing level of unfilled job vacancies that may jeopardize EU strategic priorities, such as the European Green Deal, On the other hand, the economic downturn has been coupled with an increasing level of unfilled job vacancies that may jeopardize EU strategic priorities, such as the European Green Deal, due to the death of ground staff for building, constructions and renovations, and the digital transitions because of the shortage of AI and IT engineers and technicians. In these critical times, it will be key to leave no one behind, and this is especially true for people from the most vulnerable groups who are working in low-skilled and precarious jobs. Reskilling and further education programs will be crucial to adapting to this new reality, as well as acknowledging the role of frontline workers, often with low salaries, such as medical staff, care workers, educators, cashiers, or protective service workers, and recognizing their contribution to society and addressing their working conditions. The EU needs to ensure in the long term that education matches the need of the economy and speed up job matching in the short term through adequate training programs. Continuing vocational education as a response to structural changes in the labour market is key, and the EU should then step up investments in vocational education and training, and especially in the exchange of apprentices across Europe. Multi-stakeholder fora, such as the European Alliance for Apprenticeships, need to be reinforced and adequately funded at EU level. I would also like to touch upon the topic of digital and technological transformation, a topic that is very dear to me since I'm a co-rapporteur in the European Parliament for the artificial intelligence regulation. When we talk about digital, we cannot but talk about work, and especially new jobs, which are the result of new technologies and automation. The consequences of the digital revolution, from robotics to platform work, produce an historic change with consequences that must be governed to ensure that no one is left behind and that the advent of new technologies does not lead to further inequalities. These new forms of work, as well as digitalization and the impact of the new technologies from a regulatory point of view, require a wide-ranging, in-depth examination by the world of politics, but also academia, and also in the cultural sphere in a broader sense. I believe that we cannot simply limit the discussion to a matter of growth in the production sector, but that we must focus on the implication that these new technologies will have on people's lives and work, with the implications also, for example, for social security and welfare. We have to lay foundations for a new relationship between man and the tools of the digital revolution. This goes through citizens' understanding of the new technologies that are made available to them. However, the EU must actively engage with citizens and civil society to learn from their experiences in order to meet their ambitions for climate neutrality, social justice, and a European public service that works for them, following the successful example of the Conference on the Future of Europe. I'm convinced that civil society and social partners, with their inherent expertise and experience, play a crucial role in ensuring a just and fair transition. For instance, the EMI is one of the 7 partners in the project Just EU and Me, a 2-year project led by ActionAid Italy. Through such project, we aim to provide young people and representatives or youth or associations with knowledge, skills, and opportunities for actively participating in developing recommendations to improve EU and Member States policies implementing the European Pillar of Social Rights and addressing social justice issues such as access to education, gender equality, equal opportunities, etc. I'm convinced that the social dialogue at the EU, national, regional, and local level should remain at the heart of the decision-making process on all matters concerning employment and industrial relations, both cross-industry and sectoral. This should be no discrimination of exclusion of any sector, and the right of association needs to be granted to all workers regardless of the sector. It's crucial to respect key principles such as subsidiarity, proportionality, as well as the autonomy of social dialogue to protect EU social standards and workers' rights. Employers and trade unions know the best the needs for labor markets and should have the means and tools to take appropriate action to anticipate change and ensure that the EU remains a central economic player without putting into question the social acquis. It is important for social partners to jointly decide what to put on the agenda of the European social dialogue, just as we as EMI and USF have been doing. Furthermore, it is key to ensure that emergency situations such as the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine do not allow for derogations of fundamental rights and do not justify lowering standards or protections in the workplace. The latest EU social and labour policy advancements are welcomed, but they must go further to also support people in vulnerable situations, namely those who face multiple barriers to reaching employment, such as the long-term unemployed, Roma people, and migrants. Civil dialogue, including consultation of trade unions working with or representing the most vulnerable, is key and must be consistently implemented. Equally, more needs to be done at the policy level to overcome discrimination on the European labour markets. Labour and social legal instruments must be anti-discriminatory. They need to be underpinned by anti-discriminatory measures and affirmative actions, while labour market policies need to take an holistic, human rights-based and person-centered approach. The EU must be committed to the application of the principle of co-determination in labour relations, which enable employers and employees to shape working conditions together. However, I'm convinced that any discussion on the future of the welfare state in Europe cannot be separated from the institutional framework. The EU must be equipped with all the tools to protect its social market model, and to do this it will be necessary to revise the structure of the treaties. It is in this very direction that one of the main proposals put forward by our political group, but luckily not just our political group, in my case the Socialists and Democrats, goes in this way. We must include a chapter on social protection in the framework of the treaties in order to codify in the European Constitution principles and objectives that can guide the direction of the Union's economic and social policies. The European Movement International will continue its activities and communications to advocate for a stronger European social dimension and the full implementation of the European Pillar of Social Rights in close cooperation with its members and other relevant stakeholders. I truly hope that we will continue our fruitful cooperation and wish you all the best for the Congress, which I'm sure will be an important moment of participation and discussion on the most important issues that you all have to address at the European level and in your countries. Thank you again, and let's keep in contact.